get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down.
And welcome in. We appreciate you being along for the ride with us on this episode of Kneecaps for Breakfast. Vince Progard, that's me. Happy to be joined, as always, by my longtime partner in crime, Phil Byrne. And Phil, I don't want to bury the lead here. I just want to lead this episode off with a little bit of breaking news. Okay?
Okay, go for it.
That after 11 wonderful years in the NFL, Za'Darius Smith is calling it a career and is relegating himself to a lifetime on the golf course and at the beach.
Yeah. So the answer that we thought was out there could even make, a month with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he had 1 start. He's calling it quits. Hey, it was a fun ride while he was here, but that's a career for you.
So maybe the Lions were the smartest people in the room after all. They kind of knew that, hey, let's not divulge any more resources into this guy because we don't know what he has left in the tank. And as it turns out, he didn't have too much.
Didn't have too much gas left in the tank, that's for sure.
Boom. So a lot to get to on this episode, and it kind of caps off pardon my French here, but a pretty shitty week as far as Detroit sports fans are concerned. I mean, you get opening night for the Red Wings, home game at Little Caesars Arena Thursday night. They go out there and get their brakes beat off them. Friday night, Tigers, gotta have it. Win or go home to the ALCS.
Yeah.
And after 15 innings of just excruciating baseball, if you stayed up late enough, you got the football taken away from you like Lucy takes it away from Charlie Brown. Saturday, if you're a college football fan, Michigan and Michigan State suffer some tough losses. And we thought that maybe this Lions game would be the one thing that could salvage an otherwise difficult weekend for the masses.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen. Not entirely surprising 30-17 loss on the road Sunday Night Football to the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot to unwrap in this one, Phil. I want to start with your first overall impressions on this game before we get too geeky and nitpicky at certain elements of the game.
So it's, you mentioned all those other Detroit teams that failed or the college teams that failed, and unfortunately it's kind of one of those things where it's like a told you so week, where the issues that fans have been harping about, Tigers not spending enough money on quality bats or moves at the trade deadline, that came to bite them in the back. The Wings, again, they're going kind of young with some of that roster build up. They probably don't have enough of a good defense, and the goalie situation, allowing too many goals in their opening day periods. Michigan and Michigan State, again, maybe not where the fans want those programs to be, especially in the case of Michigan State, where they may be firing not John L. Smith, but Jonathan Smith at some point here. And finally, our Detroit Lions. We just mentioned Za'Darius Smith. We had brought forth the issue with that defensive line, and then basically everyone got hurt in the span of 2 weeks in the secondary. And, that's right, you're just going to go ahead and face Patrick Mahomes on the road on Sunday Night Football in a almost kind of gotta-have-it game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think most Lions fans were pretty upbeat about starting the season 4-1, all things considered. And it was competitive to an extent, but by the time the third quarter rolled around, about the end of the third quarter, you kind of just got the feeling that it was over. And it wasn't one player getting the blame or anything like that while the game was going on, but it just seemed like the Chiefs had our number. They were a little bit more well-prepared, certainly got the calls to go their way as well in some instances. But last night, the Chiefs were, in fact, the better team, and they beat us.
So we'll kind of work backwards a little bit. We'll get into the game itself, but of course, as it usually goes, 60 minutes of hard-fought NFL football. I mean, we'll call it what it is. It was a hard-fought game, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any quit in the Lions dog by any stretch, but 60 minutes of football overshadowed by a little skirmish that took place following the game. Brian
Yeah.
Branch was at the epicenter of that. Got into it when Patrick Mahomes tried to extend a congratulatory good game. Branch wasn't having it. Smith-Schuster wasn't having it. That Branch wasn't having it, and it kind of just went downhill from there. Long story short, Brian Branch suspended one game by the NFL. He will miss this upcoming game. And it's almost like when you factor in the fact that he's been disciplined in the past, whether it be ejections or whether it be fines for unnecessary roughness or unsportsmanlike or what have you, he's at the point now where you can call him more or less a repeat offender. So in my mind, the one game suspension is exactly what I was expecting. I'll get your thoughts on a second, Phil, but in my mind, a completely inexcusable move by a player who should know better and who should understand that there are a lot bigger goals in front of this team than just going on the road on Sunday Night Football and playing in a game against the Kansas City Chiefs, who's not in your conference. And there's going to be games coming up very soon within your conference that your team is counting on you to be able to be available in. And you can assign blame as the day is long, but at the end of the day, Branch is the one who was right there in the middle of it. He got disciplined, in my mind, what was appropriate for the action. He should be ashamed of himself, and you got to move on. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was actually worried that it could be more than one game because of the spotlight that it presented against the Kansas City Chiefs. And you mentioned all these things. There's so much season left to play that as a Lions fan at the end of the third quarter, when it looked like the Chiefs had our number, I don't want to say content with it, but I'm not going to have a terrible week because we lost on the road in a primetime game to the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football against Patrick Mahomes, against Travis Kelce, against Taylor Swift. Like, those are the elements that you're up against. You know what you're getting into with that kind of game. Brian Branch has to realize that the officials, the calls, all things like that, your actions and how people are going to go ahead and judge and review and analyze, critique, and everything like that really have a long way to go with it. And Ndamukong Suh, while he was here, he was a dominant player. But absolutely did he become a distraction every single time there was a personal foul penalty. I think you could say the same argument for Terrion Arnold for holding or defensive pass interference, where it's becoming essentially what they're known for in that regard. Brian Branch is an all-pro caliber player. I think he is an absolute difference maker. I think he's absolutely deserving of a big money contract here. But you have to realize that this is not, the NFC Championship game. This is not the Super Bowl. And in those instances, if that's what's going to happen, if that's something that, just go walk away. Get off the field. Just go back to your locker room instead of going, up to midfield. Because, I think the Chiefs aren't completely out of this. I think there is a little bit of a goading on because I think they do have the reputation of getting the calls from the officials. And, that Travis Kelce catch that was brought in with the ground, that led to some points for Kansas City, and really should have been reviewed or stopped or things like that. So, you hate to see these situations develop. And I think that the optics for Brian Branch don't look good considering, Kirby Joseph could barely go out there and play. He did. They
but gave him something inside that blue tent.
Yeah. But the second.
He went out there looking like Willy Wonka when he did that backflip when the chocolate factory scene got underway.
Yeah. But the secondary is so banged up this is something that was totally avoidable, that didn't need to happen. You know, go do something on social media and rip into the officials, or say it in the post game instead of like literally looking like a fool out there and just slapping some guy open
Because then,
fisted.
at the very, very, very worst, you get fined.
Yeah,
Oh, well. I mean, this
exactly.
guy's got a lot more money coming his way, and now you cost your team in an even bigger way, and that's not being able to be available in a
Yeah.
critical game against a 5-1 team coming to town. We're going to talk a
Yep.
little bit more about that later on in the show. But anyway, I at least wanted to get that part out of the way, and now we can more or less get into the game. But a few storylines from the game that are worth discussing, Phil. Zero accepted penalties to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there who think that Roger Goodell and Taylor Swift all have access to the master Batman hotline or whatever the case may be. This isn't doing a whole lot to dissuade a lot of those conspiracy theorists. Zero accepted penalties to the Chiefs. First time that's happened since week 18 of the 2023 season. So that is not, contrary to popular belief, something that happens particularly often. In fact, if you're more of a numbers kind of person, there is less than a 0.5% chance of that happening in any given NFL game. So the fact that the Chiefs had zero negative plays courtesy of penalties causes a little bit of a eyebrow raise, especially given the fact that they were penalized 13 times just 6 evenings prior in the Monday night game against the Jaguars.
Yeah. It's, some of it comes down to coaching and getting your guys in the right spot. And I think the element that they have is a guy like Steve Spagnuolo being on the defensive side, working in tandem with Andy Reid. I mean, the guys that they have as the veterans really does set the tone. I don't think this has anything to do with Taylor Swift. I think this has to do potentially is what's the worst that could happen in a week 5 game where some whistles aren't called as much, because I think there is some degree of the Chiefs are ratings because of the star power that they have. And, well, the AFC seems pretty wide open right now, especially with the Baltimore Ravens struggling like they are. So I think there is something to be said, but I am not going full blown quack with, the conspiracy theory and tinfoil hat kind of things. But I think absolutely they swallowed the whistle last night.
So let's get into some areas that actually had an impact on the
Yeah.
game between the hash marks. So the Lions, after going on that very, very impressive looking first drive, and it almost kind of gave me flashbacks to what we saw in the Monday Night Football game against the Ravens. They had the football for the much better part of 10 minutes of game
Yeah.
action. And because of this and that, stripes and stuff, they wound up needing to settle for a field goal. They did get points out of it to go up 3-0. However, after that, the Lions possessed the football only 19 minutes after that first drive. That is completely backwards from what Lions football should be. They only made 2 trips to the red zone the entire night, went 0 for 2 in those visits, 5 out of 11 on third down, which isn't the worst, but that set up 2 occasions where the Lions were to go for it on fourth down. They were 0 for 2 in those situations after coming into the game 7 for 9, including the, again, aforementioned stuff, stripes, the rest. So that speaks to a lack of execution by the Lions, Phil. But does that
Yeah.
signify to you that was Kansas City just the better team?
Certainly they looked more prepared. I think the thing that I don't know, it's just very strange because I think John Morton and Kelvin Shepard have done a pretty outstanding job outside of week 1, where I think there was still a little bit of the rust and, maybe some tendencies that still needed to get kind of ironed out here a little bit. Some of those drives that the offense have gone on have been nothing short of textbook. They just couldn't get it done. And I don't think it really was any one thing in particular, other than, if I'm being blunt here, I think it's just the guys we didn't have. No Taylor Decker. Heck, no Gio Manu. We
You had
we
to
had
bring
the
Dan Skipper out of mothballs.
we had the big Gump out there playing left tackle. I mean
He was pink slipped about 8 weeks ago.
yeah. And then who were some of those guys that we had back there? Again, we're relying on Rocky Yassin to be a starting cornerback in this league.
And clearly the
Um,
lights were too bright for him. Let's call it what it was.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it was just a little bit of that's not our best team that we saw out on the field, coupled with, Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't have his best game. I think they did a pretty good job of bottling up Jameer Gibbs. And, JMO, he had a better game this week. He made some catches, but, didn't really have the explosive play so much to say.
I will say this about St. Brown. He picked the absolute worst time to have the biggest drop of the season so far. I mean, if
Yeah.
he winds up making that catch on fourth down to extend that first half, possibly put the Lions up maybe 17-6, prevent the Chiefs from getting that football late in the half. Yeah, they get it to start the third quarter, but now the game is tilted slightly on its axis in the other direction. So it is so important possessing the football and doing things with the ball when you have it.
But I trust him. Like, I don't think that's going to be a habit. I don't think that's going to be a thing. He has him, Puka, Lad McConkey, probably the surest hands in the league, and I think St. Brown has the absolute surest hands. So I think he'll get it fixed. But again, that's the absolute worst time you could have had a drop was right then on that play.
So tell you what, Phil, when we do these Monday night recordings after having an entire almost 24 hours to kind of decompress and think about things, it's
Yeah.
almost like more little nuggets come into my head, and I kind of got a little bit of a list going between things I liked about the game and things I didn't like. So what do you want to hear first? Things that I liked or things I didn't like?
Give me the salt, man. Give me the salt, and then we'll deal with the sugar.
So the biggest thing that burned me was the fact that every single time the Lions would score, the Chiefs responded immediately with a touchdown. So you can't be going on the road and trading scores if you expect to go out there and win football games. And you mentioned it, Phil. The Lions were all sorts of banged up in the back end of the defense. But at some point, there has to be some level of pass rush. And I think the pass rush kind of came down to earth a little bit, Phil. They had one sack, and that happened in the very final minutes. And let's not be forgetful of this fact that Aiden Hutchinson was going up against a backup left tackle. They realized late in the week that they were going to be without their starting left tackle because he had some type of personal family matter come up. So insert the backup guy here. And I think the only thing Hutchinson got his name called for was the roughing the passer penalty in the second half.
Right. Yeah.
And beyond that, how many times, just thinking in your mind, Phil, did the Lions really push that ball downfield, especially in the second half when their backs were up against the wall? It's almost as if I didn't know any better and I was just sort of watching the Lions as an unbiased, I'm just a football guy watching what I see here in front of me. If I didn't know any better, it's almost like they're just not built to play from behind. They play their best when they're able to get the lead, play from ahead, and then sort of death by 1,000 paper cuts to the opponent. When they're down, even 10 points, the game never got out of hand, if you will. We saw what they did in Houston last year. Granted, it was fluky and it was outer space, but it didn't matter how big that lead was. The Lions were able to come back and make a game out of it. They were never out of this game. But based on a lot of the play calling and execution, the 10-point deficit we saw for the good part of the night, you might as well have been down 40 points.
Some of that, too, I think also comes down to where was their break? At some point in most of these games, go back to like that game against the Texans, I can't remember the linebacker's name, but I think he had a couple of roughing the passer penalties. I think there was a couple pass interference. There were some drops and things like that to end drives to get the Lions some momentum back. And Chiefs were just steady and stable, and of course, coupled with no calls against them, that Lions, down what they were, needed a break or two, and they didn't get anything.
The last thing, Phil, and this stuck out to me in real time over the course of the game. And as it turns out, I had some time today and I went back and did a little bit more of a nerd out deep dive. And in the moment, I'm thinking, God, the second down play calling is crap. It seemed like they weren't getting anything done on second down over the majority of the game. And it actually was a little bit better than I gave it credit for in the first half. But in the second half, I was dead right as far as the lack of creative play calling and execution on second down. So here's what I came up with. 6 out of 16 second down plays that were executed by the Lions in the game went for half of the to-go yardage or better. So that means if you're looking at 2nd and 6, did they get 3 yards or better to make it a third and significantly less than what you would hope? So only 6 out of 16 times were the Lions able to go for half of the to-go yardage or better. The other thing that I noticed after digging a little deeper into it is they did not utilize David Montgomery one time on any second down play over the course of that game. And it seems to me like anytime you get Montgomery involved at all, chances are there's a first down to be had more often than not. So that stuck out to me in the moment, confirmed after the fact. And that all that would do, especially in the second half, when again, 10-point game, but what it's doing is it's setting up these obvious passing situations. I don't think the secondary for Kansas City is any great shakes, but you're putting Lions in third and obvious passing down, and no wonder they can only run the ball single-digit number of times in the whole second half because they weren't doing their team any favors by not executing on second down, setting up third and long. The only choice you really have is throw the ball, and most of the time it didn't work.
Yeah, glad you had the time to put that together. And those are things that it seemed like there were some issues on second down, but until you actually kind of like piece it together and the lack of David Montgomery's presence in there, it all seems kind of connected, and these are things that they need to clean up. They need to get to the why behind what they're getting into because, we clearly had our worst offensive output of the season in this game from a point standpoint. But efficiency is really what has driven this team and our wins this year. And when you can't be efficient and you can't really come close and make an easy third down, that's when you're going to be struggling for sure.
So, conversely, getting into things that I liked about this game, and I think this is what got me thinking so much about the second down inactivity or inaction in the first place. I thought the execution on first down was fantastic. Again, going back and looking, only 4 first down plays the entire night put them quote unquote behind schedule for second down. And what I consider to be behind schedule is 2nd and 7 or worse. So if you were to tell me going into a game on the road against the defending Super Bowl champion runner-up on Sunday Night Football that 4 first down plays the entire night were to put you behind schedule, I'd say you're probably winning that game. So I thought they executed very well on first down. They just couldn't sustain that into second and third down and beyond. The next thing, Phil, is I think the offensive line, given the fact that they were down Taylor Decker, they were down Manu as their number 2 guy, they had to go to Dan Skipper and say, hey, I know he pink slipped you 8 weeks ago, but let's bygones be bygones. And the interior, that is still a work in progress. I thought they did okay. They averaged, I think, 4 yards a carry on the ground, which isn't amazing, but it's okay when you're on the road in a tough environment. I don't think Jared Goff was under duress most of the night. He went through a stretch where he probably completed 15 passes in a row. So I think the pass protection was there. It wasn't a terrible night by the offensive line by any stretch.
Yeah, and I think for what they had with Skipper, considering it was held together by duct tape on that side of the line, where I was super critical of the interior part of the offensive line at the start of the season, I think they have started to play pretty well, but some of that is also going to be allowing the opportunity on run block to get these holes going because I think they've done a fairly decent job, or at least they did last night, about making sure that there was no blitz, no pressure coming directly up the middle. I thought they did a fairly decent job in that.
So that puts a button on the Lions and Chiefs matchup. Chiefs winners 30-17 over the Lions,
Mhm.
and we move on. So next game will be on Monday night as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come to town. It feels like that's starting to be more of a repeat occurrence with the schedule falling the way that it has, with both the Lions doing well in their division, the Buccaneers doing well in their division. It seems like we're playing them at least once a year, and the 2025 edition will take place Monday Night Football at Ford Field. It's going to be unique, Phil, because we know what the injuries are like for the Lions. We know we're going to be down Brian Branch. So it looks like you're talking Robertson as your probably only healthy corner. You got Kirby Joseph, who we assume will be okay to go. He sure looked like he finished the game okay. And behind that, you really don't have much of much. On the other side, we don't know what Ibuka, the rookie's injury, is like. I think he went down and didn't finish the game in the game over the weekend against the 49ers. They're still waiting to get Mike Evans back. He's getting close. Still waiting to get Chris Godwin back. He's getting close. So we don't know who Baker Mayfield's going to be throwing the ball to necessarily, but we also don't know who's going to be defending those receivers. So, what are you looking at, Phil, as we head into in my mind, a critical game on Monday Night Football between 5-1 and 4-2?
It's still Baker Mayfield. It's his ability to extend plays with his legs, with his ability to throw on the run. That has been the Lions' Achilles heel defensively going back several seasons. I think even some of the less talented Bucks teams from a record standpoint, they made things competitive with the Lions because of those traits that he has. I think they're absolutely going to come into this game and kind of give the Lions everything they've got. This is not going to be an easy win. This is one that we'll see where the Bucks injury standpoint is, but you got to hope that kind of coming back home after several weeks away is just what the doctor ordered as far as getting guys like Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs back a little bit more involved. The Bucks defense is also fairly banged up. So I don't know who, if you go for player or pound for pound, who's the more banged up team at the moment. But next to the Lions, the Bucks are pretty close.
So, one thing that we do know is in the last 3 or so years, since the Lions really got this machine humming like a well oiled one, it seems like the Lions are just as good as anybody following a loss. So I think
Yeah.
you're putting a little bit of blind faith at work here, but what's the best way for the Lions to really put what happened in Kansas City behind them and really focus in on in my mind, got to have it game against one of the best in the NFC?
Well, I think it's going to be ball control. I think we've seen the Lions offense, whether it was against the Ravens, that opening drive, even though we only got 3 points, taking time off the clock, because I think one thing that Baker is able to do is get scoring drives very, very quickly. They have, of course, one of the most efficient 2-minute offenses. Some of that probably due to Emeka Ibuka, who prior to this injury is probably looking like a front runner for rookie of the year. So they're 5-1. They found ways to win. They can score points in a hurry, regardless of who he has back there. So to me, I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier in the show. Get David Montgomery involved a little bit. We've had Sam Laporta involved in the passing game far more here in the last couple of weeks. Maybe some sort of combination with that. I don't think you have to do the splash play per se, but get that crowd going, use some ball control, and if you win 24-17 or something like that, a win's a win. Doesn't have to be pretty. Just get the win.
So Monday Night Football, Buccaneers, Lions. Note the kickoff time. It's going to be a 7:15 kickoff from
Oh,
Ford Field. So it will be the Joe and Troy production, but they're going to do a West Coast Monday night game afterward. Instead of doing the two games that are played right up against each other, they're going to do a true Monday night doubleheader for some reason. Why?
Co-
Contracts.
What is it like Cardinals and Raiders and Battle of Who Cares, right? Something like that.
Honestly, I think it's like Texans Seahawks or something like that. So if you're into Sam Darnold and all that, be my guest. One other bit of news to discuss, because let's be honest, Phil, the division wasn't really much of anything. The Packers cruised to a easy and predictable win over the Bengals. The Vikings were on a bye week. Bears are just kicking off as we speak based on the time that you and I are recording this. So really nothing to discuss. I will say that the Tennessee Titans were the first team to actually fire a head coach this season, letting go of Brian Callahan after 19 games, a 4-15 record as the Titans coach. And it seems like things are going from bad to worse down in South Beach. So maybe the Dolphins are the next team, but geez, we're not even to Halloween yet, and teams are already saying thanks but no thanks to some of these head coaches.
I don't know why. I know because actually I know why. They're both named Brian, but I get Callahan and Schottenheimer mixed up. I was like, which Brian is this? That's the Titans coach. Oh, it's Callahan. Oh, cool. And of course, their dad's also coaches in the NFL.
Correct.
Yeah. Hey, listen, that's been an absolute dumpster fire down there. Cam Ward, very, very talented, very gifted. I think, especially knowing where he came from to get to where he got to, being the number 1 overall pick. But nothing has worked out this year for the Tennessee Titans, and especially with a division that seems very up for grabs, I guess. Even the Colts are playing pretty well. So not surprising there. Yeah, and then the Dolphins, again, without Tyreek Hill, probably not having an explosive offense. You got Tua saying they've had
airing all his dirty laundry at a press conference.
Internal issues and things like that. I'm like, whoa, okay, what is he? Just live reporting
Bold
to TMZ
choice,
or
Cotton.
Yeah. Let's see if it pays off.
Crazy. It is worth noting that the Tennessee Titans, in their first game back with an interim head coach, who's actually former Chargers head coach Mike McCoy, is going to be the guy at the helm the rest of the way. Who's coming to town? But the New England Patriots, led by former head man Mike Vrabel, just like it was drawn up. So
pathetic. Very pathetic.
Let's get to some picks, Phil. We'll start at Jacksonville Northeast as the LA Rams travel across the United States and across the pond to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars from Wembley Stadium in London. Rams laying 2.5 in this one. Rams, Jaguars from London.
Yeah, give me the Rams. Give me the Rams. I bought in a little too early on the Jaguars and kind of what they had going there, and they did not look very good this past week.
Yeah, I think the defense travels for the Rams. They did what they were supposed to do against a depleted Ravens team. I think that's going to travel against a Jaguars team that may be playing a little bit better than what they actually are. We'll have to see, but give me the Rams over in London. Next game up is a biggie. The Philadelphia Eagles laying just 1.5 as they travel up to Minnesota to take on the Vikings fresh off a bye week. So you got a team in Philadelphia, losers of 2 in a row, going to Minnesota. How's this one shake out?
I think the Eagles are going to bounce back. I just feel like they're going to figure out some way to get that passing game a little bit more involved. And I think it may be a low-scoring affair. I know the Eagles' defense has been banged up a little bit as well, but I still like the Eagles more than I like the Vikings.
I'm going to go with Minnesota in this one, Phil. I think maybe you get J.J. McCarthy back in this one. He's rejuvenated after a month off of maybe trying to find his bearings and dig into the playbook, get to know some of his guys a little bit better. You got Jordan Addison back.
He's not hurt? Is that the conspiracy?
I'm not a doctor. You got Jordan Addison back in the mix. First time he's played a game in Minnesota since he's returned from his suspension. Minnesota, we know, is capable of putting up points. I'm not so sure what's going on with the Eagles in that locker room. They seem to be lacking a little bit in the run game some weeks, lacking in the passing game other weeks. They're losing defensive depth with Zadarius Smith up and retiring. I'm going to take the Vikings to take care of business at home and pick up a key win in the NFC. Next game up, Phil, the Indianapolis Colts, who are off to a 5-1 start, are catching 1.5 as they travel to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers, fresh off a win over the Dolphins. Colts, Chargers.
I'm not even sure who the Chargers still have lining up on that offense outside of Justin Herbert at this point. I thought Hassan Haskins would be the starting tailback. I was wrong. Vidal or something. I had no idea who this guy was that was running the ball for the Chargers. So that's the point of the season where we're at, where you're like, oh, this guy played 2 games in the UFL back 4 years ago, and I have no idea if that's the case, but no, I think. Wait, who is this? I just went on a tangent. The Chargers,
Colts, Chargers.
Oh, Colts. Yeah, give me the Colts. Give me the Colts in this one.
I'm going to take the Colts too, and it's worth remembering that the Dolphins actually had the lead over the Chargers before the Dolphins defense inexplicably left Justin Herbert to complete a big 42-yard play to Ladd McConkey to set up the game-winning field goal. And I think the Colts really have it going on right now. Maybe a change of scenery for Daniel Jones is just what the doctor ordered all along, and I think they keep it going by going on the road and picking up a win. Last one on the docket, Phil, and this one is unique as far as divisional implications go. The Green Bay Packers laying just a hair under a touchdown as they travel to the desert to take on the Arizona Cardinals, a team that's really hit the skids these last few weeks. Yeah. Do the Cardinals find a way all of a sudden to get right? They were right there with the Colts this past weekend, but the Green Bay Packers are a little bit of a different machine. Who you got in this one? Green Bay -6.5 against the Cardinals.
That is a pretty big spread, but I still feel pretty confident the Packers are going to cover that. Add the Cardinals coach to one of those coaches that could be on the hot seat as well, especially since he shoved. It wasn't Kyler. Who was it? I can't remember.
DeMarcado, the running back.
Yes. Yep, that's right.
Remember him from the national championship semifinals a couple of years back.
Yeah, so, I just think that's not a good omen. Give me the Packers. Unfortunately, I think they're going to be a big pain for us moving forward.
And I think you spoke right into it, Phil. I'm going to take the Cardinals and the points here because they best take those points. Otherwise, you called it, Jonathan Gannon's probably going to be looking for some help with navigating Zillow here pretty darn soon. Possibly another opening in the National Football League. So those are your picks. And, Phil, that ends one junky week to be a Detroit sports fan.
Let's just all go take a shower and rinse this stench of loser off of us. That's encouraging, right? Let's end the show on that.
Let's end the show on that. That's all we got for you in this episode of Kneecaps for Breakfast. We appreciate Phil and I being able to air our grievances out to you and for you being along for the ride with us. Phil and I are going to be back next Wednesday. You'll get next episode Wednesday after the Lions do battle with the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. We look forward to chatting with you about that after the fact. For Phil Byrne across the way, Vince Progar saying good morning. Go Lions, forward down the field, over and out.